it's very important to analyze your tournament games. I played this tournament in Udaipur. The tournament just ended today, and I'm having a look at all my games so I can understand where my mistakes were and what my weaknesses have been and what are the opening mistakes I've made, and generally to improve on my performance, my next tournament. So let's jump right in. I played in the tournament with 9 rounds. My rating at the start was 1722, and I scored 7 out of 9, 2 losses. So I'll take you through the tournament with uh, not just the analysis but also how things went in between. So I started with good hopes. I was at the top, like I think 29 to 28 seed rank at the start. So my first round was against Rahul Saha. So let's look at the analysis. So he played d4 and I played the Dutch. He played knight f3, I played e6, and we have some regular moves. So whenever white plays this setup, instead of the more common g3 fianchettoing the bishop against the Dutch, it means that the player is not very experienced in the Dutch. If he knows his stuff, this is what he would go to, because once this is done, black's bishop becomes a monster on this diagonal. So he played bishop out, and one thing I have learned is never to allow e4. Or if you're allowing e4, you have to be ready with e5 or f4. So b6, before he gets time to play e4, I stop it. Bishop b7, the monster bishop. Knight d2, he's preparing it. Bishop e7, bishop b2, castles. Castles, and now d6. So I've got the Dutch setup that I need. Now the plan is knight e4, queen e8, develop the knight, and get cracking on the king side. Maybe even with the rook lift at some point. So he goes rook e1. He is preparing e4. Now he is almost ready to play, but of course we don't allow rook. Knight e4, c4. Now knight d7, knight f1. Now black is equalized. White's advantage is gone. Knight f6, knight g3, and queen e8. d5. He chooses to strike with d5 here. Now my pawn will hang here if I play e5. I mean, even f5 is hanging. So I have to play knight takes knight. Sorry, this is not hanging. f5 is hanging. This, if he takes, I can take back with the knight. So that's fine. But f5 hangs. So knight takes knight, pawn takes back. And here I took on d5, which is actually a mistake. I thought it is a free pawn. I mean, after playing it, I realized this bishop c4, but then I was still okay, I thought, after c6. I'll be a pawn up. But the correct thing here, instead of pawn takes pawn, would have been to shift the pieces here. Because then there's a good attack on the king side. Minus 0.3. So knight g4, and if he takes, then queen h5, and it's difficult because this hanging. And the rook will also come in. For example, the line I analyzed right after the game was knight g4. If he takes, queen h5, and now the move he's trying to stop bishop takes. So if he plays e4, f takes, and wait, not f takes, not f takes, because then bishop takes back. F, sorry, f4, and now the rook becomes a monster. So let's go back. So here I made a mistake, and now I have a bad position. So he plays all the right moves, preparing to jump in with the knight. I play bishop f6, queen d2. What is the best option? Queen d2 is fine, yeah. King h8, rook c1, and here I believe rook c1 was a mistake. He had to go for this bishop takes, pawn takes, and this pawn is weak and my bishop is not great. This position was what he had to go for. But instead, he missed that I can play c5. Because once I play c5, everything is great because pawn d5 comes with tempo, and he played knight b5 here. I played takes, and queen c6. Very important move because d6 is hanging, c7 is a threat because bishop takes, knight c7 is a direct threat. So queen c6, f3, because there was a little bit of a threat going on there. So here I knew that I'm in a good position. I have the advantage because it's a clear pawn. knight f6, and now the clear pawn is going forward. That's a very good pawn I have got. He attacks the pawn, I defend it, rook d1, rook e8, e4. Desperation, because now d4 is a pass pawn. Knight takes, and it's a winning position. He made things a little easier, and I go in, and then rook check, queen g5. Here I had to think a little bit. I was thinking of queen e3, but then after rook f2, this was the right choice. He would have been completely paralyzed. But I went for queen g5, seeing that I win a pawn because he can't go king f2 because queen e3 is mate. So rook e2 takes, takes, and comes back. So it's how many extra pawns? Three extra pawns. So just a little bit of formality here. I mean, here you have to understand I can't take the bishop, I thought, because it's like repeated checks. It's very difficult to get out of it. It's actually winning for black even after that, but I couldn't see a way. So I came back, just shifted the pieces around, and now I wanted to bring the bishop and queen on the diagonal. And here he went for g4 and takes, but that was my chance to go in. Queen f2, and it's done. Here he resigned. So this was round one, a decent start, even though I had a bad position temporarily. It was a good. My round two was against 1567. This was Saturday afternoon. Um, I was white, so always happy to be white. He plays a Sicilian, and I play this bishop d3 line, which I always play against Sicilian. So the positions are completely different compared to a normal Sicilian. So he goes knight b4. I've never faced that before. So yeah, just bishop back, and then he plays d5. So a very new position for me. And here I made a mistake. I played a3. And after playing it, I realized he can actually take on e4. And the engine is saying, yeah, after pawn takes knight e5, because pawn takes, this would be not sufficient. So pawn takes, if I take here, he takes here, I take here, and he takes here. Isn't he a pawn up? Yeah, it's a pawn up. Not a great pawn, but still a pawn. So I realized that's possible, but he played knight back. So instead of a3, I should have just taken knight. Yeah, takes, and if knight takes, probably d4 is the correct way to play, or castles. Or even if queen takes, now a3, knight a3, castles. c3, not ideal, knight d3. Okay, so a3, what about a3? Okay, the knight goes back and it's okay. All right, so he played a3, knight went back, and I took on d5. He took back, and now knight to c3. Knight c3, queen goes back, and now castles e6 and bishop b5. So he goes bishop d7, rook e1, and bishop d6. d3, a6, bishop back. So now position is completely equal. As in, I want to get d3, but d4, but not possible. So it's black is equalized pretty easily. Bishop e7, and now takes a 95. Takes, and we have a very equal position. C4 was a little bit difficult choice for me. I didn't want to get my pawn backwards, like this backward pawn. But after C4, I thought I've got something, and D4 wouldn't be difficult later. I played Queen D3. He defends it, and now D4. He castles. He doesn't take. What happens if he takes? Wait a minute. Takes. What was the idea I had? Let me try to remember. After D4, uh, yeah, after takes, I think I was planning rook D1. But what if he plays rook D8? Hmm, interesting. Oh, wait. What about C5? I was planning C5. Yeah, C5. Because after queen takes, I get rook C1. No. I have knight F7. Yeah, this was in my mind. After king takes the queen. If king takes, then it's winning. The correct move here, unbelievably, is castles. Wow. Castles, and it seems okay for him. So very risky for him. So he doesn't take the pawn. So this was a very good move, I would say, with d4. Pat on my back. Castles, d5. So here I feel I've got something, even though the pawn is looking a little weak, but it's a pass pawn. So I think I thought it was enough to create some problems for me. Queen f3, rook d8, rook d1. Here he plays queen c5. And here I got the chance to get rid of that pawn and get the queen to an active square. It takes and queen d7. He goes queen d2. I had calculated this, just rook f1. And I had calculated this also, that he cannot take, but he took. So here I was expecting him to, I think, move the knight somewhere. I thought he'll play knight a4 or something. But then c4 hands. No? So what is the correct move? He'll have to defend the knight and attack my knight. But then I get a6. He gets b2 and it's e4. But here he blundered. He took on b2. And now I got the chance, knight d7. He completely had missed this. Knight d7, and after rook d8, some calculation was needed because the c pawn is a bit strong. Knights are not great against running pawns. And this if this c pawn gets here, then rook d1 wins. So I took, after some calculation, takes. The line I calculated was knight c4. Only move I take. Knight c4, and if he pushes, the knight is just in time. Covers d1, so no rook d1, and the pawn is hanging. So you'll have to defend it and then just rook c1. And the pawn is gone. What if he plays rook d3, I can just take and the pawn is defeated. If rook c3, I can just come here. I can even go rook d1 and rook d2, but yeah. So the knight came back just in time. So he plays f5. I play knight d3 because once I get the knight to c2 with the rook defending it, it just everything is intact. Now the king comes in, knight a3, getting out of jail this way. And now I need to get my king out. So g3. He goes king d4 and now knight b5, king moves and rook f3. Good move, I thought. Yeah, it is a good move. He can play rook a1, king moves, and then probably take here. And I'm a piece up, but not completely confident. But yeah, rook takes pawn and it's over. He allowed the fork. He realized as soon as he touched the pawn. And now it's just a matter of converting. I just need to realize the king cannot come any closer to either pieces. He's in jail, so I have to just get a pass pawn. And after takes, here he resigned. So that was round two, so a good start. Round three was against a 1-6-3-7. It was a very close game. Before we move forward, let me tell you, second day was my worst day of the whole tournament. This is still day one, round three. Uh, I played the Dutch, and here he played a very surprising f3. And surprisingly enough, it's actually fine for white. It loses the advantage, the white's advantage at first, but it's fine. I wanted to stop e4 at any cost, so d5. And he's trying to play e4. And here again, he's trying to play takes, and e4, I believe. Not immediately, but at least in the future. So knight c6. Now he can't do this because after takes, this will hang either with the queen or with the knight. That's why knight c6 is very important. I think it's the best move. Yeah. So knight c6, he goes e3, and now e6, and we have some. He plays a3. A3 is actually the main. It's book move. Yeah, a3 is what three people have played. Actually, very surprising. I don't know why. Okay, they don't want bishop b4 and takes. Okay, a3, bishop e7, knight e2, and castles h4. So he's continuing his style of play, like complete chaos kind of play, and it's still fine for him. Takes, and I was preparing for him to castle long, so that's why c6 and b5, a5. I go b5, he goes back, he doesn't castle long, he waits, and he got his knight to a nice square, and I play a5. So he definitely cannot castle long because this attack is very fast. His is not. So he goes knight e2, preparing to jump to f4. c3, c4, bishop back. And now knight c6, getting rid of that knight. And white is actually better here. While playing, I thought I must be better, but then once I reached this position, I understood This knight's very good. And h4 stops g5, attacking the knight. And my knight's not having any good squares, and my bishop is terrible. So I realized it's actually a good position. He goes g4. And now takes, and then knight f7. And you know, saying equal here, but then, okay, equal. g5. And now, yeah, here I missed d5. I could have played e5. I thought e5 takes, and if I take this, knight takes, but I mean, queen takes, d5 hangs. But d5 is not hanging because e5 pawn takes is d4. And then, like here, takes d4. And if he castles, then just d3. This is very good for black. Wow. So I missed that. I played uh, I played knight d6, preparing to jump to f5. Queen e2, knight f5, bishop takes, rook takes. The queen moves, and here I played queen e3. And now rook f8. He castled finally. Queen g3 and bishop e8, trying to make this bishop useful somehow. So he goes rook f2, and now I played e5. And here actually I was under a little bit of pressure because I realized if I take, it's a takes, I realized takes, and this pawn is hanging, isn't it? And I can't defend it that well. No, it's a pin. So I played queen e6 and it's still equal, takes and takes. And here he took takes. Wait, there was an advantage somewhere here. Where was it? Oh yeah, here, here there is a good move. Like here, I just kind of automatically took back, and there was low time. But rook takes rook, knight takes, and bishop h5 because rook f3 is a threat. That is, gives an advantage. So I took back, and now it's equal. He takes everything, king f2, and we have an endgame. And here, my bishop got a breath of fresh air, and bishop e4, and this became a very strong piece. And thanks to this queenside majority over here, I got good play. Now king comes in, he goes to the queen side, and here he played a4. I got taken by surprise. I thought I'm in a good position here. He goes a4, and now b4, and after here he should have just gone for this. That was the original idea, but then he must have thought the rook can come back, and the pawn becomes weak. But actually, that pawn is just enough counterplay. Like after a6, rook a7, he has rook a5, a4. And if I defend the pawn, he just gives a okay. You can give a check here. The point being, if he comes here, the pawn hangs, and if he stays there, white can just wait. Wait, knight e6 check, king b5, rook a2, and now rook takes. Oh, knight c7. So he must have seen this kind of position and he thought the pawn will go. Very difficult to see knight c7 there. Okay, so he went rook f1 and here I got the advantage. Because now rook f5, not allowing any rook to come in. He plays rook f5, he didn't know what to do there. And the rook comes back and queen side is breaking up. He goes back, just see his next three moves. He again comes back to f3, he just waits. Can't do anything better there. Maybe 90 to 95, but okay, takes. And he must have thought this is actually clever because if I go rook b3 check, he wants to get the king in here inside this box. And it's not easy to get in there. Knight is stopping it. But there is king e5 and he's now lost. He played b4 because rook b3 was coming. Now takes, king moves, and rook a8. Knight moves, and after takes, knight moves, rook a3, knight check, and here he blundered with knight takes. See the winning move? Rook b3, and it's over. And here he resigned because he's threatening mate, and if the king moves, I mean rook check, king moves, and c2 anyway. That was round 3. This was day 1. Now day 2 was a bad start for me. I played a good opening. He actually ended up 7th or 8th in the final ranking. And I played e4, he played the Sicilian. and we have the same line as the second round. I mean, same setup. But here he goes with a dragon. He basically stops d4. And if he plays knight f6, I can play d4. But he plays knight e7. Now I play d3. He goes castles and bishop e3. And now I got d4. He plays b6. And I play queen d2, king h7, rook d1. And here I feel good about the position. Bishop a6 and rook c1. Here I had a small decision to make. I was considering takes, and queen d6 or queen d7. I was wondering if this is any good. I mean, I thought takes, everything gets traded like this. And this was probably drawish. This, I thought I can get more out of that position. So I played rook c1. And he plays rook d8. And this is where I made the mistake. Inaccuracy, but that's what lost me the game. I played b4. The idea being if takes, I can take back and the line opens up. That would be great for me. And I'm threatening b5. But what I missed was b4 is actually a free pawn. He can just take on d4, which is what he did. And when I take back, he took the pawn for free. He should have taken with the knight, some kind of brain fade, but he took with the pawn. But yeah, still good. So the correct plan there for me, if I wanted b4, I should have played d5 first. D5 and then b4. No, b4 is fine now. But Indian has better options with g4, knight h4, stopping f5 basically. Because black wants f5 now that the center is closed. But yeah, now b4 is fine, is what I'm saying. Anyway, so after rook c1, rook d8, b4, he took and he got the pawn and then completely struck on the queen side. d5 is a very nice move. d5 is very good. Because I was planning d5 and move the bishop. Okay, d5, e5, bishop c4, bishop a4, inviting b5, and then came back. And now his pawns steamrolled me on the queen side. So I went desperate on the king side. But he stopped even that. I mean, he could easily play something like, does he have to play f2? It's a best move. He could play. I mean, he can very easily play something here, no? Like b3 not possible now. But then like queen a5, I thought. Yeah, queen a5 and then b3. But he decided, let me stop the play on the king side. I played h4. He goes queen d7, queen g2, h5, f5, takes, and e6. Queen e8, very accurate. Keeping, I mean, with just temporary, uh, like good looking position there, but it's just nothing. The pawns will fall. I took, he took, and now he took, and here queen e4, queen went back. Here he played, yeah, I played rook c4, and here he took some time to think and played a like absolute killer move. I mean, I love the move he played because most people would just play queen e2 here. Probably I would also play queen e2 because it's an easy win, right? The rook is hanging, and I believe with queen e2, yeah, this wait, what was yeah, the two rooks are hanging, right? And I can't come back because bishop is covering it. The queen e2 just wins, but he found the best move, knight e3, and if I take, he just takes back to check and rook 4. By the way, the idea of playing this sacrifice was if pawn take this knight g5, cheapo. Black is still winning after because he's up a lot of material. But I win the queen and I come back in the game. Yeah, but of course he doesn't have to do that. He just plays knight. I move the queen and then he takes over. Full rook up. And then here I resign. It was no counterplay, full rook down. And that was I wasn't very unhappy after the game. I mean, because he played well, but still playing d4 was the critical moment. That I have to like improve, like missing this. Some calculation mistake, probably, something like that. So this was kind of not so disappointing, but yeah. Losing because of this mistake in 14th, 15th move is not something I should be okay with. Yeah, I'm not okay with because still in the middle game, early middle game. So then came round five, and this is where things really go south. I was playing a 1-6-1-7, and he plays the Vienna, and I got completely taken off off road. I played knight f6. I think I used to play bishop c5 in this position. Is bishop c5 move? Yeah, c5 is possible. Yeah, there's some knight f3, knight takes in the air. So knight f6 is actually fine. But what I didn't know was when he plays f4, the Vienna gambit, the only good move, you see this, 97% people play this move, d5. So it's a must play move. Because what I played was d6, and white gets a very nice position. He gets everything he wants. And here he took a long time, like 10-minute thing. And I was thinking, why is he thinking? And then I realized he's thinking of this takes knight g5. Looks like winning for white, but there's one saving grace for me. I go back to g8 and then knight e6, queen e8, knight takes, and now queen d8. Yeah, the knight may not come back, but queen g6. I didn't see queen g6 while calculating. I thought queen d8, and I may get two pieces. What would have happened if queen d8 actually? It goes knight takes. I go knight c5. Why knight c5? Will develop the bishop. Can't I go b6? Why not b6? Okay, if he plays normal move, then I get the piece back. Yeah? Bishop b7, and how is it still better for white? Because of the king and the rook? Yeah, it's become equal. So that's what I was thinking. But when I analyze it later after the game, the engine actually throws queen g6 and black is almost winning. Because if you take there, I take here, and when rook moves, I believe just take the pawn. This is difficult to understand. Yeah, the plan, the threat is bishop h4. That's why. That's where the engine really likes it. Anyway, so all this didn't happen. He played d4 instead of the sacrifice. He goes d4. I go knight b6. What is the correct move? I have to take. Okay. Take, and castle. Knight b6, bishop back and takes and castles. h3, preparing g4. Knight moves, thinking there's going to be a pawn storm. It made sense to move. And now I'm preparing knight c5. And here I actually feel like I have equalized, especially here. Now, the thing is actually, this position has always been comfortable. The whole game he was comfortable because he's got this nice center active pieces. I'm still trying to come out of that, the back rank. Bishop e6, queen moves, queen e8, f5, bishop back, and bishop c6. That is very comfortable. He takes, I take back, and he plays knight. Takes, and here I had to go queen a4. I had to create some pressure because otherwise I'm just a sitting duck over here. Look at these pawns. So I go queen a4, thinking attacking the pawn, of course, and rook a6 was the idea. So he go king b1, I go c. Yeah, now I want to play c3. Sorry, c3. So he goes c3, and now rook a6, queen moves. Very smart decision. He doesn't even let any counterplay happen. It was still fine, but okay. Queen c2 is very nice. And the problem is my queen side is a bit weak. This pawn is weak. This pawn is weak. So he goes knight e5, and my pieces are still not able to like come to decent squares. I played b5 because the pawn's hanging, and now knight c6. And this is where I made a judgment error. Judgment evaluation in some part calculation, like seeing the position after, like the position that comes not properly. So here I thought if I push the pawn, he goes knight a7. I go rook b6 to defend, and he comes back. And my rook is cut out from this side completely. And I can't challenge this knight. That's what I thought. but actually it's fine. Bishop is taking control of all these 2 pawns, 3 pawns, and the knight can't get out there easily. So just bring the king in. And then what I missed was rook a6, rook a8. The rook can come out. It's not the end of the world for the rook. So I, the idiot that I am, instead of playing what was it? b5, knight c6, instead of playing a5, I played bishop f6, giving up the pawn. Thinking if he takes, I can play rook a6. And here I again have a4. Wow, it's only two moves are a4 and b3. Okay, he goes a3, and I again could have played a4, but yeah, king f8 takes, rook back. Why rook back actually? To bring it to e8. Okay, I bring it to e8, and now rook comes in, and here he played well. I got the h pawn, but he got pass pawn on the a5, and it's lost for me. This side plays, even though I have the bishop, I can't stop this side pawn easily with the bishop. And I don't have enough play here easily. So I came back, and once I went passive, it's just over. He goes, he goes full to inside push. And H pawn meekly tries to run, but he shuts that shop down pretty fast. And here, F pawn is fighting a lone battle, which the rook stops. And he pushes, and here I resign. So this was a second straight loss for me. So I was in 3 out of 5. Feeling pretty shit. It's not like I played badly in both those games. It's just that I didn't know the correct way to play against Vienna. That's one thing. And second, in this game, giving up the pawn. That was a bit of a brain fade, something like that. Again, a mistake, inaccuracy. I mean, it's a mistake. That's what cost me the game. So when you lose 2 games in a row on the second day, the tournament is going pretty bad. Yeah. So like this still, it's not like it's completely gone. I still thought that I can maybe win 4 games, the remaining 4 games, and reach 7. That was the only. So here is what I thought. I thought I can win the last round today. Next two will be fairly easy. Easy and never easy, but should win. And the last round would be a must win. That's what I thought. And that happened actually. So in round six, I was facing Davin 1545, and he played the Scandinavian and a gambit that too. So here I took the safe route, just bishop e2. I had a loss after f3, bishop back somewhere, I think f5, and then c4. I had a painful loss just a few months back, and I didn't prepare that properly. That's again a fault in prep. So now I know what is the correct way. Like I had done some prep. So f3, bishop back, g4, and then c4 and knight c3. That's the plan. But yeah, we did not go deep into that. So what happened was we got an equal position. I took the safe route, and here I knew it was a free pawn, but I thought it's okay. One pawn, I get some active pieces, and his king is a bit vulnerable there. So he goes for it, and I go bishop e3, and I cannot exchange queens, of course. Again runs. He comes to c2. That's a mistake. I don't know what he was thinking that queen c2 too risky. He has to play e6 now, develop the bishop, and he's actually fine. But he goes queen c2. I just play knight c3, and if he takes, I believe his knight b5 is a big problem. So he can't take. He just comes back. Again, I don't want to exchange. Still better for him. Because still one pawn up is not enough. He goes takes, and now again he's better. What was the correct thing to do? Queen g3. Like, not enough. And here he goes queen b6. This was his mistake. He didn't have to give up the pawn so easily. I thought he can just play a6. That's a big deal. Yeah, it's scary to see b4, b5. You know. So he got scared a bit there, and he played queen b6, giving back the pawn. And here he blundered with rook d2. Looks like a normal move, but yeah, after rook f1, the rook has to take a U-turn, and that's 2 moves wasted. And from there, it was a positional grind further. I just play rook f3. He can't play e6 because this hangs. He can play g6, but that's what I was playing. He plays king d7, I play king f2. King moves e4, and now g6. And now engine says e5, takes a knight c7. But I play rook h3. Good enough. He cannot develop his bishop. So it's a grind. And now knight comes back to attack the pawn. He defends, I attack it, which means his pawn is gone. This is now a free pawn. He can't do anything. He pushes, I take. Now bishop h6 and just rook d3. King moves, rook h7. Rook is not getting trapped. It's fine. Rook g6. Now knight g3. So it's a clean extra pawn from being a pawn down. Now rook f7 and things are easy. Now bring the rook in. Knight f5, attacking the bishop. He goes bishop back. Knight e3, defending the pawn. And now rook d5. He goes back. Now knight g4. He can't go king. I mean, he can go back, but then the pawn. He goes rook takes. The idea being, if I take there is rook takes e4 check, king d3, king takes. Cheapo. Of course, king d3. Reminds me of the game against Sachin round 3. King comes to stop the black king from coming back. So rook moves, and now free bishop. Now just a matter of converting, and here he resigned because too much to handle. So after 2 days of play, I was on 4 out of 6. Not a great position to be in. Butch would definitely be low because I lost that fourth and fifth rounds. So now again, last day, I was looking forward to it. I just had to win, win every game, and reach. I just wanted to get to that final round and get into that must-win situation. So must-win situation, I had problems, but now I'm doing fine in must-win situations. So that was the plan, and it kind of worked out. Last day coming up. Round 7 was against a 1606, and I got a Dutch, like F5, Dutch like position. And he basically didn't control the sender at all. So I took a big chunk of it with E5. So he got thrown out of his familiar positions. And now Queen E8. Engine actually likes D5 here, taking full control. But I just didn't want Queen B3 and all to come. So I just wanted to stay in my area, my lane. My lane was this: Queen out, then F4, and Bishop out, and everything was active there on the king side. So I go there, King moves, and now Bishop G5. So this is the plan: F4 and all that. I play Queen H5. He goes E4, and that actually helps me open the bishop up. I can't do it yet because Queen takes pawn will happen. So I go Rook B8. Now the Queen is not doing anything there. Queen went back, and now Black is definitely better. And here he goes Bishop B2. Here I had a decision to make actually, and I'm glad I made the right decision. So my the thing I wanted to do was play Rook F7, Rook F8, and put full pressure on this. That's what I want. But the problem with that is, I mean, I almost played it as well, but then I realized if I play Rook F7, he can just go Knight E3, and my play here is almost gone. I'll have to exchange or put on H3, and I can't play Bishop H3 here. I believe. I can. Wait, takes. If Queen takes, that's Knight G5. So that is the problem. So then I had already seen this. I can win a pawn, but I wanted more. But then I realized taking the pawn is the best option. It will give a good chance in the endgame. And endgame it went. And because the pawn structure is very good, it's a comfortable extra pawn for me. I go knight to a better square. He also tries to get that here, rook d3. By the way, it's important to note in this position, there's no bishop f4 because rook d3 is there, but he's trying to do that. And now he's almost threatening bishop f4, but after knight e6, he can't because takes, and takes. He loses one more pawn. So he goes knight e3 and now c6, stopping knight e5, and now rook d3. I play bishop b8. Very good move, I have to say, because playing b5 allows knight a5, and I have to go passive. So bishop d8 is very nice. And now b5, and it's a winning position for me. F4 was a wrong time. Now he can't go knight e3, and knight a3 is a sad knight. So he goes f5, and it's a free pawn. I came back. Now I just activate everything. No backhand mates. Rook comes back. Now he's preparing d5. Knight d4 comes now, and d5 takes, and here knight e6. Bishop moves, and here comes knight. His best chance would have been to play rook takes knight and play that position, but that's an exchange down and pawns there. So he makes it easier. I just completely win here. Knight e6. Why give him the knight? And why give him the knight again? H6. And finally takes. And the pawns keep going and going. Now time for mate. A pretty good start to the day, I have to say. I mean, I knew I have to win the next game as well. So round eight was against a 1-6-5-0. I played e4, and we have the same system. Third time, like in this tournament, that I'm getting the Sicilian. It didn't give me huge advantage in any of the games. Even this game, I didn't get the positions I am hoping for. But here he goes queen c7. I play castles. I'm trying to play d4, and I got d4. And learning from the earlier round, here I definitely went for d5. And then the correct option is knight c4 and then knight takes, but I went for knight takes directly. I thought it should be good for me because his king is still in the center and his piece is a little bit awkward. And I have f4. So that's why I went for it. But he played correctly here, b5, stopping the knight from coming. And now takes, bishop for queen goes back. So here I had some options. I had to choose between queen f3, queen e2, queen d3. I was actually thinking of queen d3 and queen f3 first. But I didn't like c4, bishop c5 coming in. And e5 knight moves, bishop back. That also I didn't like that much. So I played queen e2, solid in a way. And now e5, castles because the knight's not hanging. Pawn is pinned. I play bishop h2 and here he blundered. He thought the pawn is still pinned. Yes, it is still pinned, but do you see the win? Bishop f5, getting the queen out of the pin. Then takes. And now it's a full piece up. I have to just get my knight in. So I played bishop f4. And here I actually thought there are some problems with rook e8 coming. And if I move, then bishop h4. So I didn't want this rook to come in after that. If I move my queen, for example, bishop takes, and rook d2. So that's why bishop f4. And also keeping some ideas of this in the air. So he goes rook e8, and I calculated this. I had to play queen f3. That's what I wanted. Because if I go here again, he gets play, right? Bishop g3 takes, and rook e2. That's not what I want. Sorry, queen f3. He goes queen b6 and now queen g3, threatening bishop c7. But he goes c4 check. And here I realized I have to again think a little bit. Because if I move my king, rook e2 comes in. And there's no rook f2, which means it's almost gone. Wait, if king h1, rook e2, black is almost winning here, but rook g1, queen f2. Wow. Because queen takes, rook takes, and pieces. Yeah, g3 is not possible. Spent. Wow. So I realized that. So I didn't play king h1. I played rook f2 because now when he plays rook e2, I can defend the rook. He took, and even queen c6 back. I played rook e1. Here I knew I'm fine, and now everything is completely good. The knight is coming back. I can exchange, but he goes for the queen sacrifice because anyway he's down. He goes for this, and here I had to be a bit careful because I was almost thinking of knight c2. But the problem with that is rook d2 comes and black is back in the game. G2. Rook d2 is a threat right now, even without knight c2. So I stopped it with bishop f4, very important. And now I just figured out the knight. The queen has to just get out. That's all. And the queen did get it. And after this, it's just formality. I just need a pass pawn. And the queen. And there it goes. Yeah, here the result. So that brings us to the last round, a must-win game against a young kid, 1625. The funny thing is, this kid was pretty annoying. Like he was a bit too talkative. Like before the game and just before, after shaking hands, like we shake hands, right, like this. And then after shaking hands, when I'm ready to make the first move, like when I'm waiting for him to make the first move, he offers a fist bump. And I just said, no, no, no. I just said, no outright. Because I'm not into that, right? He's like, he was almost taking my hand for the fist bump. And he was like crestfallen that I didn't oblige. So, a little bit annoying opponent. And he was all too talkative. And that must have affected his play. It showed in his game also. Sometimes he played too fast. But yeah, well, this is definitely a tough opponent. He goes d4 and I go f5 as always. And he goes for the classical. And here I actually had to play bishop b4. That's the main move. I was still hoping for him to not play bishop g5, to be honest. I just have to prepare this properly. So he did this, and now I wanted this. So the symbol is the classical Dutch, but with no bishops and the queen on e7. And I get something that I wanted, a position like this, right? But he goes d5 here. And now I have to take, and then I can't play e5 because the pawn hangs. So it's a bit uncomfortable there. So I go castles, and here he goes 94. I'm feeling some pressure here, right? The correct option is actually takes, takes, and g6. I took on d5. Wait a minute. Here knight a6 is the main to play knight c5 and defend. But yeah, knight d4. So here I played castles. It's still okay. This is still okay, but this is giving him a good advantage. He played knight takes, but I didn't feel like he was in a good position here. I thought I have got chances. But the reason why he is better here is he has got this amazing 97. This looks impossible to play, right? Because queen takes, this is just an exchange, isn't it? But do you see the point? It's a piece of a black, but bishop takes. And if the king doesn't take, then queen anyway takes here with rook cannon. So king takes. The queen doesn't take. Queen h5. And then queen takes. And the rook is gone. So a little bit difficult to see that, but not impossible. But he didn't see it, luckily for me. He just went back to g3 instead of giving up the knight. Now I just bring the bishop back because f4 was in the air. Queen has to be connected to the bishop. So bishop back, he goes f4 anyway, queen c5. And here I was feeling comfortable because I've got an active queen. And he goes queen b3, king moves, and here he plays rook moves, knight d7. And here he makes a bad decision to go to the endgame. It was already a bit uncomfortable for him. Because this bishop, right? Look at this guy. This is a very nice piece. It's annoying for the opponent. And now the endgame was very good for me because the knight comes to a great spot, an outpost. E4, A6, and the bishop gets almost exchanged because, yeah, bishop gets exchanged. I thought he'd go bishop D3, actually. And he goes bishop D4, and that's an even better endgame for me. And here he goes completely panic mode almost. And now king G8, and here he blunders. He must have miscalculated something. He thought is if I take, maybe his rook gets in, something like that. So I take and then I take. He plays g4. If I come back, then rook e7 is the problem. Because rook f7, rook check. And if I come back again after. So still winning. But yeah, but rook e5 just shuts the shop. From here, there's no chance. Takes. Knight back, g6 stopping knight f5, and then the kings get in. And here I got a small heart attack when he played knight e4. I hadn't seen that. So here I had to like stop and calculate. Because there are two options, right? Keep it as a knight in game or take it to a pawn in game. Of course, you want the pawn in game because if it's winning, then it's done. Yeah, so you want to make this work. So I calculated first this properly to make this work. I didn't even calculate this afterwards because I saw that this is winning. This takes. King c5, king takes is touch and go. But you can always push. I'll show you what happened. Takes, push, get the pawn as far away possible, and then the king steps out. Now white is too slow. Coming this way is anyway too slow. He goes the other way. Now takes king moves b4. Takes here even pawn takes a3 wins. Not that obvious because takes I believe h5, but a2 wins. Takes promotes and g7 and then the queen uses. Still very close. Queen takes. So b into a3 wins, but why b into a3 when you can just put b3? Now there is no h5 because after pawn takes g6, the pawn promotes with check. So it's a simple win. It goes king takes, and now the pawn just promotes, and the queen comes in. And here he resigned. So that was my tournament. I scored 7 out of 9. Not bad. I mean, considering the second day, and happy I did well in the last 4 games. But yeah, tournaments are very like how do I put it? It's very less rewarding. 7 out of 9 just got me 7,500 rupees. Like there are people who maybe scored even 7.5, and those who reached fifth or sixth, they just get like around 10, 12,000. Entry fee itself is 7,500. So tournaments are very less rewarding. It's just the that people are addicted to it. That's why people play. Kids want to get better, so they play. Adults are kind of addicted to that competitive environment. Me personally, I want to like travel, play in tournaments, improve, get the rating higher, and win prizes. That's the priority. But yeah, to win prizes, you got to prepare more. So let's see how things go for the next tournament.